Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Wish Infinite. In this video of Playwright with TypeScript series, I will talk about CI or continuous integration using GitHub Actions. And before proceeding further, I would like to inform you that I have created YouTube Shorts playlist for Playwright. You can watch this playlist to refresh your Playwright concepts. I will provide link of the playlist into the description, or you can go to my channel Wish Infinite, where under this playlist tab you would be able to see this Learn Playwright in 60 Seconds Shorts playlist. And you can click onto this community tab where you would be able to see this Playwright quiz. You can answer these questions which will help you to prepare for your interview also. And I have also uploaded the latest code of this Playwright with TypeScript JavaScript series onto the GitHub. You can visit my GitHub profile where you would be able to see this Playwright tutorials TypeScript JavaScript repository. I will provide link of my GitHub profile and of this repository into the description. Now coming back to our topic, which is CI using GitHub Actions. So I have already created videos related to the GitHub where we learned that how to create your GitHub account, how to create new repository, how to push the code onto the repository, how to clone any repository, how to create sub branches, how to raise PR, how to review the code, and how to merge the code. So if you have not watched these videos, I would highly recommend you to watch these videos. I will provide link of these videos into the description, or you can click onto this I button at top right corner to access those videos. Now, what is CI/CD? So CI stands for continuous integration. It's a practice of automating the integration of the code changes from multiple contributors into a project or code base. And CD stands for continuous delivery or continuous deployment. This takes it a step further by automating the delivery of the integrated code to the production. And here in this video, we are going to focus about continuous integration using GitHub Actions. Now let's understand this CI using GitHub Actions with the help of simple example. So consider that you are working into any of the project into a company. Let's say it is a Playwright project, and for that particular project there would be a Git repository, and multiple team members would be having access to that Git repository, and they would be making their changes. There can be any changes. Let's say they want to create new test script for any of the new module, or they want to make changes into the framework or page object model. And once they are done with their changes, either they would be pushing their code directly onto the main branch, and which would be very rare because it is not recommended to push the code directly onto the main branch, or they would be creating their own branch. And once they are done with their changes, they would be adding, committing, and pushing the code onto their branch. And then they would be raising the PR to merge their changes from their branch to the main branch. And whenever there are such actions like pushing the code or raising the PR or merging the code, so in such cases, you would want that whatever the code which is getting merged onto the main branch should be correct code. So in such cases, what should happen? Your whole test suite should get executed with all of your tests. And this is going to happen with the help of GitHub Actions. So whenever someone is pushing the code or raising the PR or merging the code, so in such cases, GitHub Actions will execute all of your tests into a test suite directly. Now let's see how to configure this continuous integration using GitHub Actions. So to do so with your Playwright projects, you will have to create one YAML file. And how you can create YAML file? So there are multiple options to do so. So for this particular project, I have created one blank folder, right? Here we are not having any of the Playwright files currently. And I have also created one new repository for practicing GitHub Actions, which is GitHub-Actions-practice. Now, as I told, we will require YAML file to configure CI or continuous integration using GitHub Actions. And as I told, there are multiple ways to create YAML file to configure the CI using GitHub Actions. So let's see these ways one by one. So if you are working onto new Playwright project, so while installation of the project, you would be getting options to create YAML file. And if you are working onto the existing project also, so in that case also, there is option to create YAML file. So now let's see that first time you are going to create your Playwright project. So while installation, how to create YAML file. So now let's install the Playwright project. So about the installation of the Playwright also, I have already talked into one of my previous video. If you have not watched that video, I will provide link of that video into the description, or you can click onto this I button at top right corner to access that video. So to install the Playwright, there are different ways, and mainly we install the Playwright with the help of the command or with the help of Playwright VS Code extension. So to install the Playwright with the help of command, we will have to give the command which is npm init playwright @latest. And as I told, I have already created one blank folder and opened that folder with the help of VS Code. And here you can open the terminal by clicking onto this terminal, new terminal, which will open this terminal. And here you can give the command which is npm init playwright @latest and hit enter. And once you hit enter, it will ask for the language selection. Here we are going to use TypeScript. If you want to change, you can change it. And then here you can keep these options as default. So here where to put your end-to-end tests, we are selecting it as the tests. And here this is the main question which will create a YAML file. I will show you how this YAML file will look. So this question is asking that add a GitHub Actions workflow, yes or no. So by default, we are getting this false option here, but we want to add a GitHub Actions workflow, which is going to create YAML file. So press Y, which will select it as the true. And then it is asking for the installation of the browser. So here you can select true only, and then the installation will get started. And once the installation is done, you would be able to see this happy hacking, and it will create all the required files, folders, subfolders, and the complete structure for your Playwright project. About the installation, as I told, you can watch the detailed video. And here there is one folder which got created, which is .github, and inside it there is workflows folder. And inside the workflows, you would be able to see this playwright.yaml file. So playwright.yml. And this is your YAML file which will configure CI using GitHub Actions. So like this, you can create your YAML file while installing the Playwright first time. And let's say you are already working onto the project, right? But you are not having this YAML file. So in that case, what you will have to do? So let me delete this complete folder which is containing this YAML file. So deleting this .github folder, which will delete this subfolder workflows and the playwright.yaml file. So deleting it. So now we do not have that YAML file here. So consider that this is already existing project and you want to get that YAML file. So in that case, what you can do, you can simply again execute this command, which is npm init playwright @latest, hit enter. And here again, the language is TypeScript. Here also you can select the default option to put your end-to-end tests. And again, you will get this particular question to add a GitHub Actions workflow. And again, you can select it as yes or true. Okay. So press Y, which will again create that YAML file. And now for your existing project, if the browsers are already installed, so you can select false here. Okay. And for that, press N, which will not again install the browser. And here it is asking to overwrite this playwright.config.ts file. And here by default, the option is false because we don't want to overwrite our already existing playwright.config.ts file. So selecting it as the false. So hitting enter. And here also, we don't want to overwrite any of our spec file. So for that also, we are selecting false and hitting enter. And once this process is completed, you would be able to see again this .github folder got created. Inside it, we are having this workflows, and inside it, we are having this playwright.yaml file. So this is the one way to create the YAML file. Now there is another way to install the Playwright using Playwright VS Code extension. And there also we would be getting options to create this Playwright YAML file for GitHub Actions workflow. Let's see how we can do that. So again, I am deleting all of these files and folders and deleting it. And again, this project is blank project. Okay, you can create new folder also. I am explaining it here only. And now Again, this is the new project where I want to install the Playwright with the help of Playwright VS Code extension. And for that, you will have to install the Playwright VS Code extension. Here you can search for the Playwright. This Microsoft Playwright test for VS Code you need to install. For me, it is already installed. And for you, if it is not installed, you can click onto the install button, which will install this extension onto the VS Code. Now let's see how we can install Playwright using this extension. Let me close this tab. So to install the Playwright using Playwright VS Code extension, you need to open this project folder, and here you can press Ctrl Shift P, which will open all these options. And here you would be able to see this install Playwright option. If you are not able to see it onto the top, you can search for the install Playwright, and then you can click onto this option. And once you click it, you would be able to see these new options where it is asking us to select the specific browser for the installation. So for you, if you want to use all the browsers, you can keep these options as checked only, which are by default checked, which is Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. And then there is option to select the language. So for now, the TypeScript is the default language. If you want to use the JavaScript, you can select this particular checkbox. And after that, there is this option, which is Add GitHub Actions Workflow. And we need to keep this option as selected to create the playwright.yaml file for GitHub Actions Workflow with our installation. So all these options are by default selected only. I'm just clicking onto the OK. But if you want to make any changes, so you can make those changes and then click onto the OK, which will start the installation of the Playwright. So indirectly, it is also using this npm init playwright @latest command with all these options, which will install the Playwright. It will not ask for different options to select because those options we have already checked, right? And once the installation is done, you would be able to see this happy hacking message again. And here inside this Explorer, again, you would be able to see this .github folder where we have this workflows folder, and inside it, this playwright.yaml file got created. And these are all Playwright project files. About that, we are already aware. Now, the second case where you are already having this Playwright project installed, but you are not having this playwright.yaml file inside this .github folder. So again, I am deleting this .github folder, which is containing the playwright.yaml file. And now consider it as the already existing project where you are working on. And here, again, if you want to create that YAML file with the help of Playwright extension, so again, you need to get that Playwright extension if it is not there. And then you need to press this Ctrl Shift P. And here you need to search for this install Playwright option. Click on it. And then accordingly, you can select all these options. And if you know that your browsers are already installed, so you can unselect these options. And you just need to keep one option selected, which is Add GitHub Actions Workflow. And then you can click onto the OK. And here, as this is the already existing project, so it will ask for these options. Either you want to overwrite this playwright.config.ts file. So we don't want to overwrite it. So selecting it as the false. And again, it is asking to overwrite this spec.ts file. Again, you can select it as the false. And then you would be able to see this happy hacking message. And here again, this .github folder got created where you would be able to see this playwright.yaml file inside the workflows folder. And there is one more way apart from installation or reinstallation of the Playwright, which is the manual way. And here what you need to do, you need to just create this .github folder, and inside it, you need to create this workflows folder. And then inside this workflows folder, you need to create this blank playwright.yaml file where you can paste all of this code. Okay, let me show that to you. So I'm deleting this complete folder, .github folder, and manually I'm creating new folder, which is .github. And inside this .github folder, I'm again creating the new folder, which is workflows. And inside this workflows folder, I need to create the file. So right click onto this new file. And here the file name is playwright.yaml. So playwright.yml. Hit enter. And then you can paste the complete YAML file code inside this file. So this is the third way to get the YAML file. And here there should be proper indentation once you put this particular code inside the YAML file, otherwise it will not work properly. So it's better to copy paste code rather than writing it here. But if you are confident about it, you can write this code also. Now, as we have got our YAML file, so now let's understand about this YAML file. And it's up to you which option you want to use to create this YAML file. There is no hard and fast rule. So whatever option which is comfortable for you, you can use that. Now, as we have got the YAML file, so let's understand the code which is written inside this YAML file. So first question is that what is YAML? YAML stands for YAML Int Markup Language. And YAML is a human readable data serialization language that's often used to create configuration files. YAML's syntax is similar to natural language, making it easy to understand. YAML documents are structured with indentations, which helps organize the data. So the indentation meaning that how you are organizing your code, right? So here you will see that these name and on at the same level, but this push is appearing after two spaces, right? So one space and second space. So there should be proper indentation. YAML uses indentation to indicate the structure and hierarchy of the data. The recommended indentation for YAML file is 2 space per level, but you can also follow any indentation system that the individual file uses. So you can also use the tab on place of these 2 spaces, but in the whole file it should be consistent, and the recommended one is to use the 2 spaces. And how we can create this YAML file? So any file with the extension, either this .yml or with the extension with .yaml you can create. And this playwright.yaml file is used to create GitHub action workflow. It specifies when the workflow should run, the environment it should run in, and the series of steps to execute. And now let's understand this code inside this YAML file. And to understand this code, let's first push our code onto the Git repository first time. We would also learn that how GitHub action will work once you push your code onto already existing repository. For now, we are pushing our code first time into the repository. In real-time project, there may be the scenario that already code would be there, so this step would not be applicable for you. About this first time pushing onto the Git repository, we have already covered into my previous video. You can watch that video. And now, to push our code onto the Git repository, I have already created one blank repository, which is GitHub-actions-practice. And here, let me push my code. And for that, these are the following steps. About all these steps also, I have already explained into this video. If you have not watched this video, you can watch it. Here into the document also, you would be able to see all the steps which you need to perform. Here into this Git repository also, all the steps are mentioned. Now, let's perform these commands. So first one is git init. So here inside the terminal, you need to provide git init. About all these commands, I have already explained in detail into my previous video. So I will just give the short description. So this git init command is used to initialize empty Git repository at the current location. And then you need to use this git add dot, same commands I'm using, which are written here. And this will add all your changes which you are going to commit. And this dot is for all the files, right? You can specify file name with the extension also, which you want to stage or add for the commit. And then we need to give this git commit -m, and then you can provide any of the command. So here I'm giving the command GitHub actions practice. And once you commit your code first time, so after that you need to provide this git branch -m, and then here we need to provide main. So with the help of this command, we are renaming our master branch name to the main branch. So by default, here you would be getting this branch name as master, which we are renaming to the main. And once this is done, we need to provide this command, which is git remote add origin, and then the HTTPS URL of the git. You can also provide the SSH URL. For now, I'm using the HTTPS URL. So git remote add origin, and then the HTTPS URL of the specified repository. Hit enter. And after that, we need to push our code onto the main branch. So here we need to provide this command, which is git push -u origin main. So all these commands I am performing just to push the code first time onto the GitHub repository. And from the next time, we will not have to use all of these commands. We'll have to use a specified command where we would be just adding the code, committing the code, and then we would be pulling and then pushing our code. So once you hit enter, it will push your code onto the specified GitHub repository. Here, if you have not already logged in, once you push the code, you may also get the pop-up to authenticate with the GitHub. You'll have to perform authentication steps. About that also, I have already discussed in too much detail into my previous video. So here, I'm just performing these commands directly just to save the time. And once you push the code, and if you go to this GitHub repository, and here, if you will refresh, you would be able to see all the code from your local onto this particular GitHub repository. So now we have pushed our code onto this GitHub repository for the first time. And here, if you will see, we have this actions button. So this is GitHub Actions. Here you would be able to see different section. And now let's go back to our YAML file. As I told that I would be explaining that what is the code which is written inside the YAML file. So first time I pushed the code because I wanted to show you that how you can relate the code inside this YAML file with a different part inside this GitHub Actions. So here, let's start from this line number 1. So we have this name : playwright tests. And this gives a name to workflow. In this case, the workflow is named as playwright tests. You can give any name here. The name helps identify this particular workflow in the GitHub Actions UI. So this particular name you would be able to see inside this workflow section. So if you would be having more than one workflow, you would be able to see those lists here. For now, we are just able to see this playwright tests workflow. So if you will give any XYZ name, that would be coming here from this particular section. Now, after that, we have this on. Okay, it is at the same level as name. This section defines the events that triggers the workflow. It specifies when the workflow should run. So on pushing the code. So after this on, we have this 2-space indentation, right? So inside this on, we have this push, and this push tells that the workflow will run whenever code is pushed to the specified branch. And the branch name is main or master. If you have any other specified branch, you can provide it after putting the comma. You can also give the name as main only if you are just using the main branch, but it is the by default which got generated, so I'm not changing it. So here the workflow would be triggered on pushes to either the main or the master branch. And after this push : again we have this 2-space indentation, and then we have provided this branch's name. And at the same level of push, we have this pull request, and here it tells that the workflow will also run whenever a pull request is opened or updated for the specified branch. And the specified branches are again inside this pull request : and then after 2-space indentation, we have given the branches : and then the branch name. So in this case, the workflow is triggered for the pull requests targeting the main or master branch. And after that, we have this jobs. This section defines the jobs that the workflow will run. In this example, there is one job named test. Okay, so the same job name you would be able to see once you open the specified link. See, this test is appearing here. For now, there is one job only. So that's why this test only is appearing here. See, inside this job section, you would be able to see the same name. So till now, we have understood that this is the workflow name, and on pushing the code onto either main or master branch, or on triggering the pull request onto the main or master branch, this job that the workflow will run. And the job name is test. So for now, after this jobs : and as we need to come inside the jobs, so we have provided this 2-space indentation and then test, which is the job name. And for now, we have directly pushed our code onto the main branch. So that's why this particular job got executed. Here you are able to see the branch name also, that onto the main branch, this push happened, right? And as we have seen, this test is the name of the job that will be executed. And after this test : we have the hierarchy which is inside the test. So after this 2-space indentation, we have this timeout -minutes : 60, which sets a maximum time limit of 60 minutes for the job to run. If the job exceeds this time, it will be automatically terminated. You can increase or decrease the time accordingly. And at the same level, without any indentation, so this thing is also inside the test, we have this runs -on, which specifies the environment in which the job will run. In this case, it runs onto the latest version of Ubuntu. You can also provide Windows-latest or Mac OS-latest to execute your test cases onto the specified environment. Here I will provide comment of both the machine's name. If you want to use, you can accordingly change the name. So here for the Windows, it would be Windows-latest. This hash is for commenting the things. So once you will remove, it would be like this. And similarly, if you want to execute this job onto the Mac OS, so for that you will have to provide Mac OS-latest. Let me provide this hash, although this is getting treated as the single comment. In the YAML file to provide the comment, we use this hash symbol. Now at the same level of this timeout minutes and this runs-on, we have the steps. And this section defines a series of the steps that will be executed as part of the job. So all these timeout, runs on, and the steps are coming inside the test, which is inside this jobs. Now after this steps colon, we have this 2 space indentation and then hyphen space uses colon. And then we have the value which is actions /checkout @v4. This step checks out the repository's code. It uses the actions /checkout action at version 4. And it is going to fetch the code from the repository so that it can be used in subsequent steps. So after this checkout, we have this hyphen uses colon and then actions setup -node @v4. So this is also at the same level at this first uses inside the steps. And here this step sets up Node.js in the environment. It uses the actions /step -node action at version v4. And inside this uses where we are setting up the node, we have this width. So as it is appearing inside this uses, there are 2 space indentation. And after that, we have this width colon. And then inside it, we have this node-version colon LTS /star. And this section install the latest version of the Node.js. This LTS stands for long-term support. The LTS /star syntax automatically resolves to a latest LTS version available. So this is how you need to provide all the details to set up the Node.js in the environment. And after this particular section, at the same level of this uses, we have this hyphen space name colon and then install dependencies. And this step installs the project dependencies using npm. And inside this name, we have this run colon and then npm CI. So this is one step where the npm CI command installs the exact dependencies listed in the package-lock.json. Inside this file, whatever the dependencies which would be there will get installed onto your environment. So here we are using this npm space CI. And this command is generally faster and more reliable for CI environments than the npm install. So usually for the local machines, we uses the npm install, but here for the CI environments, we would be using this npm CI. And after this, again at the same level of this uses and the name, we have next option which is hyphen space name colon and then install Playwright browsers. So this is the name, and after that we have this run colon and then this is the command. So this step installs the Playwright browser along with the necessary dependencies. So with the help of this command, which is npx playwright install -with -dps, we would be able to install Playwright's supported browser and additional dependencies required for them to run. And what are these names which we are providing? You would be able to see that inside the GitHub actions. Let me show that to you. So let me open this test jobs, and inside it, see, we have different steps. So till now we have looked about this jobs, and then we have this tests, which was the job name. And after that, first we are having this setup where inside this file also we have specified that first we would be checking out our code. So see, you would be able to see that particular step, and then the setup of Node.js is happening. So the same step which we have seen here is appearing inside this particular test job. This is the test job. And after that, we have this install dependencies. So this is the name which we have given here, right? So whatever the name which you provide will get picked. So here we have provided install dependencies, and inside it, this npm CI command got run. So run npm CI is appearing here. And similarly, we have the second name, which is install Playwright browsers. So same thing you would be able to see. So this is the next step, install Playwright browser, and inside it, the command which we executed is npx playwright install -- with -deps, which is short for dependencies. So whatever the name which you provide here would be appearing here with the command which we are providing with the run. So run, and then the command would be appearing inside it. And now after this browser installation, we have again provided this name inside the steps, which is -name : and then run playwright tests. So this is the name which you would be able to see here, run playwright tests. And then inside it, we have provided this run : and then the command which is npx playwright test. So same command we use is to execute our tests locally also, right? So this command, same to same, we have given inside the YAML file to run our playwright tests. This will run all the tests defined in playwright project. So inside this tests folder, whatever the files which would be there and whatever the tests which would be there inside this file will get executed. And why this particular tests folder will get picked? Because the same configuration is there inside this playwright.config.ts file. So all these configurations would be applicable which you have provided inside the playwright.config.ts file while executing your tests. So once your execution is done, it will come on to the next step, which is -uses : and then actions /upload -artifact @v4. So this step uploads artifacts such as test reports to GitHub. And inside this uses, we have this if after 2 indentation, right? 1 and 2. And here we have given it as the always, which ensures that this step runs regardless of whether previous step succeeded or failed. So for all the results, we want to upload our artifacts. Here you can upload it on the basis of failure also, but for now I'm keeping it as default only so that we would be able to see all the artifacts after the execution. So inside this uses where we are uploading the artifacts, we have this if : always, and at the same level we are specifying this with : and inside it we are providing the name and then the path. So here we are providing the name, the artifacts to be uploaded as playwright -report. So this is the artifact's name which we are providing. You can provide any name. And then here we are providing this path : and then playwright -report /. So this specifies the path to the file that should be uploaded as the part of artifacts. So here usually our report goes inside this particular folder, right? Playwright -report. If you are keeping your reports inside any other folder, so you can provide that path, but by default our reports would be getting created inside this playwright -report section. And the same thing about this uses you would be able to see inside this particular job execution. So you can open this uses, which is run actions upload -artifact @v4, and with the help of this step all the artifacts will get uploaded. And here we are also providing this option where retention -days : 30. So for the 30 days these artifacts would be there with your job inside the workflow. So this particular section is to upload the artifacts from this path with the name playwright -report, and in all the cases either it is pass or failed, it will upload the artifacts and it will retain those artifacts for the 30 days. Here if you click onto the summary, you would be able to see this artifact section where this playwright -report section would be appearing. Here its size is appearing, and you can click onto this download or delete option to delete this report. And if you click onto this download or also onto this link, it will download this artifact which is playwright -report. So by default after the installation inside this playwright.config.ts file, this HTML report is configured. So inside this zip file you would be able to see that HTML report. Let me open this downloaded zip file. So see here we have this HTML report. If you would be having traces, screenshots, videos configured, so you would be able to see all those things inside this zip file. So this is the YAML file which we understood, which defines a GitHub Actions workflow named playwright tests that automatically runs whenever the code is pushed or a pull request is made for the main or the master branch. The workflow checks out the code, setups the Node.js, install the playwright dependencies, install the playwright browsers, run playwright tests, and upload the test report as an artifact. This entire process runs onto the Ubuntu environment, but you can also change it to the Windows or the macOS. And here we have specified the maximum execution time of the 60 minutes for the specified job. That also you can change accordingly. And here also, if you want to execute your tests onto the multiple environments, like onto the Ubuntu and onto the Windows and onto the macOS, So you can provide these options within these brackets. So here, let me remove these comments. So like this, you can provide the different environments if you want to execute your tests onto all of the environment. And onto all of the environment, your setup would be happening and all these steps will get performed one by one. For now, let me do it onto Ubuntu environment only. So like this, you can configure YAML file. So accordingly, you can change these options inside this YAML file. Now let me show you the configuration file changes which you can do, right? So inside this tab, we execute our tests, right? With the help of npx playwright test command, which will automatically use this playwright.config.ts file, and whatever the configurations which you have done inside this config file will be applicable for the execution of GitHub Actions job. So into one of my previous video, I've already explained this configuration file, which is playwright.config.ts file, into the detail. If you have not watched that video, I will recommend you to watch that video. I will provide link of that video into the description, or you can click onto this I button at top right corner to access that video. So for now, here there are so many options, right? You can change this default directory, right, from where you want to pick your tests. And locally, let's say you are not doing parallel testing, but onto the CI, you want to do the parallel execution. So for that, you can mark this fully parallel colon as the true. And with this fully parallel true, we can also specify the workers count, right? So how many workers you want to use, which will execute your test parallelly. So for now, for this workers key, we have provided this process.env.ci. So this is for the CI execution, okay, which is currently we are doing onto the GitHub Actions. And for that, by default, it is provided as the one worker, but you can provide it 2, 3, 4, 5, right, accordingly. And all these workers would be performing the parallel execution. And here for the local, we have not specified it. So that's why we have given undefined. So for the CI, we want to use one worker. And for the local, we have not defined any worker count. Here, you can also specify the retries which you want to do. So for the CI section, we want to do the retries 2 times. And for the local, we don't want to do any retries. So we have given this 0. So process.env.ci question mark. And if it is true, which is the execution onto the CI environment, so it will retry 2 times. And if it is not true, it will not retry. And after that, you can also configure different reporters. Previously also I have explained inside my inbuilt reporters video that how you can configure all these reports. For now, by default, this HTML is configured, but you can also configure GitHub report or the dot report, line report. So it's up to you. Let me configure GitHub report also, just to show you that how it will look once you execute your tests with the help of GitHub Actions onto their environment. So for that, we need to provide one array, and inside the array, we would be providing the tuple. So tuple is the collection of different type of items. So inside the array, we have tuple, and here we can specify the report name. So first one is the HTML report. If you want to configure file name or any other values, so after the comma, you can configure for the HTML file. For now, I'm just using the default options. And like this, where we have provided the HTML, we can also configure other report. So again, inside these square brackets, I am providing GitHub. So apart from this HTML or the GitHub, there are other reports like dot, JSON, JUnit, line, list. So any of the report you can configure. For now, I'm giving this GitHub here. And for this use, there is this value, which is the object. And here you can configure this headless mode, screenshots, video, traces. So trace is already configured, trace colon, and its value is on first retry. So whenever the first retry would be happening, for that, the traces will get generated. Let me change this particular value to retain on failure. So in case of failure, it will retain the trace. And similarly, you can provide this headless colon and its value as true or false. So I'm putting headless as true because onto the CI, we don't want to see the execution onto the browser, right? Automatically, it would be happening onto the environment. So no need to enable the headed mode. So that's why we have put the headless as true. And similarly, you can provide a screenshot only on failure. You can also provide this video option. So video is the key colon. And then within the quotes, you can provide this retain on failure or on first retry, right? Or you can also keep it on in all the cases. So it's up to you. For now, we will just generate the trace only, but accordingly, you can generate the screenshot and video also. And I'm keeping this headless as the true. And then we have these projects which are configured. So here we have three different projects inside the array of this project's value. First one is Chromium, second one is Firefox, and the third one is WebKit. So onto all these three browsers inside your GitHub environment, the execution would be happening. So if you want to execute only onto the Chromium, so you can remove this Firefox and WebKit part, and accordingly you can change these options. Let's say if you want to execute onto the Firefox or onto the Chromium, but you don't want to execute it onto the WebKit, so that you can change. So these were the main options which you can configure, and these configuration would be applicable once you execute your test onto the GitHub Actions. So once with this step, the execution would be happening here. All these configurations of the playwright.config.ts file will be applicable. Now let me add one more test script file here quickly before pushing the code directly onto the main branch again. And here I'm giving the name as GitHub Actions practice.spec.ts. And inside this test script file, I'm putting this simple code where I have imported the test and the expect from the playwright test. And then each test is having the title practice test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 tests are there. And then we have the second parameter of this test, which is anonymous function. So async. And then here we have provided this page fixture. So this is the anonymous function. And inside the body of this anonymous function, I'm just simply console logging that starting practice test 1. And then I'm opening this sourcedemo.com link with the help of page.goto. And then I'm console logging the title and then putting an assertion to verify this title should be swag labs. And at the end also, I'm just console logging that ending practice test 1. And into the each test, I've put the same code. But inside the third test, purposefully, I'm failing this assertion where the title should be swag labs. But I'm providing this swag labs wrong as the expected title. So it will not match with the application's title. And this test will get failed. And other three tests, which are 4, 5, and 6, I've put inside the describe block. So the title of this describe block is practice of describe, comma, and then anonymous function. And inside the anonymous function, we have this 4th, 5th, and 6th test is there. Here, all these tests should get passed, right? Because we have provided correct title inside the assertion. And after this describe block, I've put again one more test, which is the 7th test, where again we are just opening the link and then verifying the title. And here we are console logging at the starting, in between, and at the end. So same body is there inside all the tests, but purposefully we would be failing this third one. So now our two tests will get executed, right? First one is this example.spec.ts file. This is the default file which we have got once we installed the playwright using the command or using the VS Code extension. Here inside this example.spec.ts file, we are simply opening this playwright.dev link, right? Which is the official document link for the playwright. And then we are verifying the title inside the first test. And inside the second test, we are just clicking onto the get started. And then we are verifying that the page to have title with the name of the installation. Okay, so accordingly, you can put n number of test script file with n number of tests inside that with your actual code. Now let's push our code onto the GitHub repository directly onto the main branch. But as I previously told you, that it would be very rare that you would be pushing your code directly onto the main branch into real-time project. But for your practice purpose, you can directly push it onto the main branch. Usually into the projects, it is not recommended to directly push the code onto the main branch, right? So for now, let's, for the practice, push it onto the main branch directly. So for that, first we need to use this git add dot, and it will stage all your changes. So for now, here inside this source control section also, if you will see that these are 3 changes which are not currently staged. These are just modified changes which we have done. So once you will perform this git add dot, all these files with the changes will get moved to this staged changes section. And then you can commit these changes. So for that, git commit -m. And here I am providing the comment as the minor fixes. You can provide any specific comment, right? For now, we have done the simple changes, right? Here we have added the report. So the same thing we are able to see, right? We have added this GitHub report and also this headless as true with the trace option to retain on failure, right? Into the YAML file, we have just added this comment and we have added one new file with all the different tests. So minor changes is the comment I am adding. You can add any meaningful comment, right? Just for the practice purpose, I am adding it. So within the codes, I've provided the commit comment and hit enter here. And after the commit, if you are working onto the real-time projects, so it is recommended to pull the code before pushing it, because multiple people would be working onto their code and they would be merging onto the main branch. So it's better to get the latest code, and for that we have the command git pull origin, and main is the main branch name. And after this git pull origin main, hit enter, which will pull the latest code. Currently I am the only one who has pushed the code onto that repository, so that's why we are able to see this already up to date. But if more people would be working into your project, you would be able to see those details here. Okay, sometimes these conflicts may also appear that you will have to resolve. Till now I have not explained about this conflict section. If you want me to create one video to explain that how we can resolve the conflicts, so please let me know into the comment section. Accordingly I will prepare the video for that. And then once you pull the latest code, we need to push the code onto the branch. So for now I am just directly pushing onto the main branch. So git push origin main. So for now we have not created any sub branch. Usually we would be creating a sub branch and then we would be pushing the code onto that sub branch and then we would be raising the PR. But for now, just to show you that how this GitHub Actions will behave once we push our code onto the main branch. So that's why we have configured, right? Once you push your code onto the main branch, so this is just for your already existing repository. You would be first cloning your actual project's repository, and then you would be making changes, and then you would be adding those changes, committing those changes, pulling the latest code, and then you would be pushing those changes. So git push origin main, hit enter, and once you hit enter, you would be able to see the same changes onto the git repository. So here you can come onto the code and see 4 times ago whatever the commit which we have done is appearing here with this commit comment, right? Minor changes. So this is the comment which we have given, and here inside this tests also you would be able to see this new file which we have added. So this is normal process. We have already seen this process to add commit and push the code onto any of the branch, right? For now we have just did it onto the main branch, and as soon as you do it, see here inside this actions tab, you would be able to see this commit message inside this playwright tests workflow, right? So this is our workflow, and inside this workflow you would be able to see this link which is minus changes, which is the commit link, right? So this is the commit ID pushes by my ID, right? Wish-infinite. And we have pushed the code onto the main branch. So that's why main is appearing here. Okay. And it is executing the job. So here, this is the test, which is job name. Okay. And if you will open it, you would be able to see all the steps are getting performed one by one. See the code checkout happen. It installed the Node.js, all the dependencies, browsers it has installed. And then it is executing the complete test suite from our project. Here, if you will come to this code also, you would be able to see that this last commit happened 6 minutes ago, and this is dot which is appearing, and on mouse over you would be able to see this pending because it is related to this particular action which is getting executed, right? So currently it is not completed, it is in progress, and once it is done, you would be able to see all the details here. And now the execution happened. See, this execution went on for 2 minutes 37 seconds, and if you will open this particular link, you would be able to see this test job. Here we are able to see that it is triggered via push 3 minutes ago. This is the user who pushed with this commit ID onto the main branch. The status is failure because purposefully we have failed one of the tests. This is the total duration which it took. This is the number of artifacts which got attached. And here we are able to see this file name, which is playwright.yaml file. On push, this particular job got executed, right? So all those details we are able to see. And once you will click onto this test from here or from this job section, you would be able to see all the steps. See, all these steps got performed, right? Checking out, Node.js setup, installation of the dependencies and the browser, and then the execution happened. Here you would be able to see all the details, right? Here we have provided the console log. So that's why we are able to see these console logs, starting practice test 1, the title, and the ending practice test 1, right? And we are able to see this practice test 1, 2, or 3 multiple times. Why? Because we are executing the same test onto the different browsers, right? Here into this playwright.config.ts file, we have configured all these 3 browsers. So that's why the execution is happening on all the browsers. And here you would also be able to see all the failure details, right? So whatever the failure happened, you would be able to see those failures with the reason, right? So see, for the Chromium, one failure happened where the title is not matching. Okay, purposefully we have failed it. And here, as we have kept retry as 2, so for the failure, 2 retries are also happening for each failure, right? So for the Chromium also 2 retries happened. So that's what is appearing here. And for the Firefox and for the WebKit also, you would be able to see the same details with the retry details. So whatever the failures which has happened, you would be able to see here. Okay, there are 4 failed test cases. So whatever the reason which would be there, you would be able to see that reason inside the report also. There are some flaky tests also. So there may be the case the environment is slow. So that's why there are some more failures which are appearing there. So all these details you would be able to see inside this particular section. And the same details you would be able to see inside the report also. And after that, here into this step, it uploaded the artifact. And after uploading of artifacts, these are just cleanup steps which would be happening. So post run actions for the setup, for the checkout, and after that, there would be this completed job where this cleaning up orphan processes would be there. So the GitHub Actions would be doing this particular cleanup, right? You need not to worry about it inside this YAML section. And here you can search for the specific log also. We have option to rerun these jobs. Some more failures happened or the environment was slow, right? So you can rerun the specified job also. So you can click onto this run all jobs. It will execute all the jobs. Currently, there is only one job which is there because we have configured one job inside this playwright.yaml file. You can configure multiple jobs also. So let's say you want to configure test 2, okay, the second job, and inside it, you just want to execute one single test, right? So you can use this npx playwright test and then a specified test name, right? xyz.spec.ts or any specific configuration you can do. So that second job will get executed for that particular configuration, right? You can also mention the browser name, right? For the second job, let's say you just want to execute onto the WebKit, so that also you can configure. There are so many configurations which we have looked into our some of the videos, right? So those configurations you can do. So for that, we can configure multiple jobs, right? For now, we are just using the single job. Here we can also click onto this users section inside this run details, where you would be able to see this is the job name, right? And then the runtime details. And here also you can click onto this workflow file. So you'll not have to go back to this VS Code to check, right, that what was the configured inside the YAML file, right? Here you would be able to see the complete YAML file which you have configured here inside your project, right? So the same thing you are seeing here. Now clicking onto the summary. So now we are back to this summary section of our execution for the specified push. And here, if you will scroll down, there is this annotation section where we are able to see the specified details related to the each failure. And then there is this playwright run summary, right, which is getting generated, where you would be able to see the summary of the execution. And why this section is appearing? Because we have added this GitHub reporter inside our playwright.config.ts file. So that's why all these details you would be able to see. It's better to configure this GitHub. So in a single go, inside this annotations only, you would be able to see all the details related to your execution, right, with the summary. If you don't want it, you can remove it, but I usually like to keep it. And here you can click onto the show more to check the specified detail, right? We are able to see the browser name with the test script file name, with the test name, okay? And here we are able to see all the details related to the failure, that why failure happened, right? Here in this case, we were expecting the title as Swag Labs wrong, but the application was not able to load the title. So that's why it is showing blank, right? So that's why this failure happened. And for the same, the retry must have happened so that you would be able to see the details related to the retries also. And accordingly, you can check these failures with the help of GitHub reports. And we have also configured the HTML report inside our playwright.config.ts file. So this is the HTML report. And here inside the YAML file, we have mentioned the name of the artifact should be playwright-report. Okay. So that's why it is showing the name like this with the size. And here inside this artifact, from where the reports came. So from this particular folder, right, which is playwright-reporter /. So if you will execute your test onto the local also, you would be able to see the same playwright-report section where your HTML report will get generated, right? So click here and it will download your HTML report. So the report got downloaded with the name playwright-report.zip. So I'm opening this particular folder. And now let me extract this zip file. Okay, right click, extract all, and extracting this playwright-report zip file inside the folder, which is playwright-report, right? And here we are able to see this index.html, okay, which is our HTML report. Here, these folders also got generated, which are related to the trace, right? Because we have enabled our trace in case of failure, right? Inside our playwright.config.ts file, right? Here, see, we have configured the trace, and then there is this data folder which is also appearing here, which will have the supporting files. And now you can directly double click onto this index.html to see the report, or you can open the CMD onto your parent folder, right? So inside this downloads section, my report got downloaded, right? Once I clicked onto this artifacts link, right? So I'm opening CMD here. Okay. So currently I'm onto this downloads folder, and here to open the HTML report, what is the command which we give? We have previously seen inside my video of HTML reporter, right? So the command is npx playwright show-report. So about this command and about the HTML reporter, we have already looked into details, right? I will provide link of this HTML reporter video into the description, or you can click on this I button at top right corner to access that video, right? So if you will give this npx playwright show-report, so by default, it will open the report from this folder, which is playwright-report. But let's say your report got generated inside any other folder name, right? Let's say playwright-report 5 is there. So in that case, you can provide name of folder after this show-report. For now, we just need to open the report from this default folder only. So that's why I'm giving this npx playwright show-report, right? But accordingly, you can extract any of the report folder, right? Let's say this is the report which we previously generated, which got generated with this file, right? So you can extract all. You can click onto the extract, and here you can provide this name with our command, right? So by default, this is the default folder name, right? Playwright-report. But because of any case, right, we are downloading the files multiple times, so you would be able to see this number after the folder name because the names are same, right? So in that case, you can provide the specified folder name. So npx playwright show-report. I'm hitting enter, and it will open the HTML report. Why I have opened like this? Because let me open this report, which I have opened directly by clicking onto this index.html. So see, it has opened this index.html from this location. But from this location, if you will open this report, and if you will go to any of the failure, right? And let's say I want to open the trace viewer. So I can click here, but here it will not directly open the trace viewer. Why? Because currently our report was not opened onto the server. We have opened it locally, but this particular report I have opened onto this local host. So this report is getting served onto this host, right? So we have opened this report onto the local host server, and here if you open your report like this, so you would be directly able to open the traces also by just clicking on it, right? So that's why I have opened the report by using the command, which is npx playwright show-report. And for the specific folder name, you can provide that folder name, right? For now, I've just opened the report from the default folder name, which was playwright-report. And this is the normal HTML reporter, right? We have discussed it. We have seen it so many times, right? So I'm not explaining this part to you just to save the time. But accordingly, you can open any of the failure, flaky test, or the pass test for any of the browser. You can check it for the Chromium or for the Firefox or for any other browser which is configured, right? So these are two test script files which got executed, and inside it there are specific tests which are there, right? You can open any of the tests, and here the retries happened. So that's why this retry 1 and retry 2 is appearing, because we have configured the retry inside our playwright.config.ts file, right? Here you would be able to see the traces. If you have configured the videos or the screenshots, as I told you, inside this config.ts file, inside this use, so you would be able to see the specified video and the screenshot. And this is the attachment section where this is showing the console log for the specified test, right? So we have console logged this starting of the practice test, the title, and the ending. So that's what is appearing here, right? You can explore all these options of the HTML report in details. Closing this report. Now, as we have seen that how GitHub Actions will behave once we push our code onto newly created repository, and also how GitHub Actions will behave once we repush our code directly onto the main branch onto already existing repository. But usually in your real-time project, you would not be pushing or repushing your code directly onto the main branch, right? Previously also we have seen that into real-time projects, you would be creating your own repository, and on that you would be adding, committing, and pushing your code. And then from that branch, you would be raising one PR which will get merged into the main branch. Now let's see in this scenario where we are raising the PR, so how GitHub Actions will behave. Let me clear this console. Now currently I'm onto the main branch that we can check with the help of git branch. And here see the main branch is appearing. Now I want to create the new branch. So for that there is this shortcut command which is git checkout -b and then the branch name which you want to create. So here I am giving the branch name as wishinfinite-yt. Any meaningful name you can give. So this single command will create a new branch with the name wishinfinite-yt. So whatever the name which you give here inside the quotes, and then it will switch to that branch from the previous branch which is main branch. So with the help of this -b we are creating the new branch and then we are switching on to that branch with the help of this checkout. You can also use separate command where with the help of git branch and branch name you can create the new branch, and then with the help of git checkout and branch name you can switch to that branch, right? For now we are using this single command. Okay, hit enter here and now you are switched on to this new branch. You can again check this git branch, hit enter, and now we are there onto this wishinfinite-yt branch. Now let's make some changes. So here let me change this retries to 1 only, and now let's put 2 workers here for the parallel testing. And here for now I would be doing execution onto the Chrome browser. So just commenting out this part. You can make any changes into your script or into the configuration file, whatever the changes which are required, right? And our YAML file is same, right? We are not making any changes there. Now, as we are done with our changes, we can add and commit our changes. Here you can also see that what are all the changes which we have made. So we have made changes only into one file for now. You can make multiple changes. And here, let's add it. So git add dot. So with the help of it, we have staged all our changes. Mean we can now commit our changes. So for that, we need to give the command git commit -m, small m, and then within the quotes, you can provide any message. It should be meaningful. For now, I'm giving the commit message as GitHub Actions practice with PR. Any meaningful message you can give. And now hit enter. And now once we have added and committed our changes, we need to push our changes. So as I told, into the real-time project, you would not be pushing your changes directly onto the main branch, but you would be pushing your changes onto the branch which you have created. So let's push our changes onto wishinfinite-yt branch. But before that, I will just pull the latest code. So with the help of git pull origin and main, I would be able to pull the latest code from the main branch. So if there are any other team members who have merged their changes onto the main branch, we would be able to pull the latest code from the main branch. So git pull origin main. For now, we are already up to date, but if any changes would be there, so you would be able to fetch those changes onto your branch, which is this one, right? Any name you can give. For now, I have created the branch name as wishinfinite-yt. Now let's push our code. So for that, we need to give the command git push origin and then this branch name. So git push origin and the branch name is this one which we created, wishinfinite-yt, and hit enter. And now we have successfully pushed our changes. Now, as we have pushed our changes onto our branch, and we will have to raise the PR from this branch to the main branch to merge those changes, right? So now let's go back to our GitHub repository. And here onto the main page only, you would be able to see this compare and pull request option. Okay. Or you can go to this pull request and here you can click onto this compare and pull request, or you can click onto new pull request, right? There you will have to select the specific branch. For now, I am clicking here onto compare and pull request. And here, see, by default, this main branch got selected as the base. And here inside the compare, we are able to see the branch which we have created, which is wishinfinite-yt. And here, if you will scroll down, you would be able to see all the changes. So about all these things, I have already explained into my previous video, into much details. So if you want to get in-depth knowledge, you can watch that video. And here, see, whatever the changes which we have done, we are able to see it here. Let me change it to the split mode. Here, you would be able to see those changes side by side. And now let's create this pull request. So here you can give any title, description, and you would be able to add any reviewer, right? So you can add reviewer as any other team member or lead who is going to review your code. For now, I will add reviewer as my second ID. which I have already added as collaborator. Into your real-time projects, you would be able to see the complete list of your team members to whom you can raise the reviews. For now, only one user is appearing here because I have added that particular user. This is my second ID as the collaborator, right? My first ID is wish-infinite, this one, and my second ID is wish-infinite without the hyphen in between, right? And that I have added as the collaborator here. So for the practice, if you want to do at your own Git repository, that you can do. Here inside the collaborator, you will have to add the second user or n number of users you can add, and onto their email ID, they would be getting the invite. And from those email ID, you can accept the request to collaborate, right? In the previous video also, I've already explained the complete process to add the collaborator, right? Just wanted to inform you, right? Like this, you can practice on your own Git repository, because onto real-time projects, you will not have to do it directly. You would be able to see the users list here inside this reviewers section. So for now, I'm able to see my second ID and adding it as the reviewer. And now I'm clicking onto create pull request, which will create a PR or pull request. And this is our commit message, which we have given. So clicking on to create pull request. And once you click here, you would be able to see this some changes haven't completed yet. Okay. And here our workflow name is appearing, which is playwright test. And then it is showing test pull request. This is our job name test. And this is the pull request. So till now we were pushing our code. So in that case, GitHub Actions was getting started. But here we have created the pull request. And if you will click here onto the details, it will take you to the actions tab where it is running this test job inside the playwright test workflow. And now the execution got completed. So this is our commit message, GitHub Actions practice with PR. And here you would be able to see all the details related to your run, right? If you will expand this run playwright test, you would be able to see all the console logs and the details related to the failure if there are any. And here we can click onto the summary where we would be able to see the status, duration, artifacts if there are any. Under the annotation section, we would be able to see the short summary of the failures, which is coming from the GitHub report itself because we have configured it here inside this playwright.config.ts file, this one. And under the artifacts, you would be able to see the HTML report which got generated. You can click here, which will get downloaded, and accordingly you can open this HTML report. So the same process is there. So now this particular run happened for this test job in case of pull request, right? Here you would be able to see on pull request, this test job got executed. So till now here on push was coming because we were just pushing our code, but this time we have raised the PR. Because of that, for this playwright test workflow, this test job got executed. And here onto the actions tab, you would be able to see this commit message and the branch name from which you raised the PR, right? So this is wish-infinite-yt, which was the branch which I have created. And here you would be able to see the workflow name #3. So the third execution is there, or third run is there, with a pull request opened by wish-infinite. So this is my ID. Here for your case, your ID would be appearing from which you are raising the PR. Now let me approve this PR from my second ID, and then I will merge this particular PR. So into your real-time project, there would be the cases that you require 1 or 2 mandatory approval. After that only you would be able to merge your code onto the main branch. Okay, so let me open my second ID. So this is my second ID. Here I will open this github.com, and for this GitHub-actions-practice, I would be checking the PR. So here inside the pull request tab, I would be able to see the PR which is raised by another user, right? So this is my second ID, wish-infinite without the hyphen. Okay, and now from this second user, I am approving this pull request. So your team lead or any other team member would be reviewing the code from here, and then they would be approving this particular PR. They would be able to see all the changes which you have done. And apart from that, they would also be able to see the result of your GitHub Actions execution, right? Which has happened because we raised the PR, and because of that pull request, this execution happened, and that result also your reviewer would be able to see. So whatever the failures which are happening, they would be able to see that there is no major concern or there is no functionality break which is happening, and then they would be approving your PR. And if there are any changes which are required, they will request for the changes, or they can also provide the comment. So for now, from my second ID, I am approving this particular PR. And here, once I approve it, I can also merge this pull request. Here, for your own ID, so in my case, my first ID will also have this merge pull request option. So either you can merge or your reviewer would be able to merge. So for now, I am merging this pull request onto the main branch from my second ID, who is reviewer for this PR. So merging the PR from my second ID. So for that, clicking onto this merge pull request and then confirm merge. And as soon as I merge this particular request, here inside this GitHub Actions, we would be able to see one more job execution started, right? Under this playwright tests workflow, we are able to see this merge pull request #1 from wish-infinite. So this is my ID name / the branch name, right? So wish-infinite is my first ID from which I've raised the PR, and this was the branch. And the code from this wish-infinite branch I'm merging onto the main branch. So that's why we are able to see this execution here. So your reviewer would also be able to see, in my case, the second ID is able to see the execution, and you also would be able to see that this execution started. So if you will go to this actions tab, there you would be able to see this execution details. You can click here and then you can click onto this test job and you would be able to see all the details. So before clicking onto this test, here if you will see, this time the execution happened on push, right? Previously, once we raised the PR, so at that time it was showing on pull request because we raised the PR. Now we have merged our code from the another branch to the main branch, and here this push is happening onto the main branch. So that's why it is showing on push here. Other details are same, right? You would be able to see this annotation section, the report run summary, and the artifacts here. You can click onto the test and you would be able to see all the steps, all the execution and failure details here only. And if you want, you can rerun your job by clicking onto this rerun jobs, and you can rerun all jobs or you can rerun the failed jobs. So let me rerun it for you so that you would be aware that how it will look. So clicking onto this rerun jobs, and then I can click here, which is rerun all jobs, or you can also click onto this button, which is for rerun this job. So through any option, you would be able to manually rerun the job. Okay, for now, I'm clicking here onto this rerun all jobs. Here, it will show you that a new attempt of this workflow will be started, including all the jobs. Here, if you want to enable this debug logging that you can do, for now, I'm directly clicking onto this rerun jobs. And again, you would be able to see this run has been started, which we have done manually. And as I told, in your project, if there is any requirement that you want to execute your tests only onto the macOS, then you can give macOS-latest for this runs on. And if it is for Windows, then you can give Windows-latest. So in such cases, whatever the machines you provide, your execution is going to happen onto the virtual machines, which is provided by the GitHub itself, where we would be running our test suite. And here, even we can also configure our self-hosted systems or virtual machines if you have any. And for that, you can also get in touch with your DevOps team. And now one last thing to add. So here, whatever the push request or pull request which we were raising, so we were going to our GitHub profile, and there under the Actions tab, we were able to see our workflow and what are all the execution or run has happened, right? And the same thing we can also see inside our VS Code only. And for that, we will have to install one extension, which is this GitHub Actions. So you can search for the GitHub Actions here if it is not installed for you. So GitHub Actions is the name, this one. And here you can click onto the install. And once it is installed, you would be able to see this GitHub Actions tab onto left hand menu. You can click here. And here you would be able to see onto your current branch, this is the workflow name. Okay. And inside this workflow, this is the job name, right? So this is our workflow name, and this test is our job name. And inside this test, you would be able to see the execution details. So these details are appearing for our current branch only, because for our current branch, only one execution happened, right? This one. So this is the branch name, and for it, only one execution happened. If you will switch to the main branch, so let me switch. So git checkout main, hit enter. And here, this time, I'm able to see 3 execution because onto the main branch, 3 run happened, right? So first, second, and fourth. This first, second, and fourth one, right? So this is just the serial number hash1, hash2 and hash4 happened for the main branch because of push, right? On push. Here you can expand the workflow, then the job, and then you would be able to see all the steps, right? Which are getting performed as per these details which we have given here. And here inside this workflow section also, you would be able to see this workflow name, which you can expand, and there you would be able to see all the executions details which has happened for this playwright tests workflow, right? So here we are able to see all 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2 and 4 happened for the main branch, and this 3 happened for the Wish Infinite -YT branch, right? And here if you do any new execution, so the same details you would be able to see here inside this GitHub Actions tab, right? So it's up to you if you want to use this extension. If you don't want to use, you can uninstall this GitHub Actions again, right? And here if you will see, so in front of your job name for any of the execution, these 4 lines are appearing, and if you will click here, which is for view job logs, so you would be able to see all the logs related to that particular execution with the timestamp, right? So let's see the logs for the latest execution. So here I'm clicking onto this view log. So this log opened, and we are able to see all the details related to that execution. See here we are also able to see whatever the console logs which we have given. So all the details you would be able to see inside the VS Code. And inside the job, for any of the specific step, you can click onto this globe icon, which will show you the step log. So click here, and it will take you to the GitHub where you would be able to see the logs related to that particular step. And that's it for this particular video. Let me give you the quick recap. So here we saw that we can configure our GitHub Actions. So whenever we are making any changes into our code and pushing our code onto the repository or raising the pull request, so in that case, automatically the execution will get started, right? And to do so, we need to create the YAML file. This you can create by installing the Playwright, by using the command, or by installing or reinstalling Playwright, or by using Playwright VS Code extension. You can also create this YAML file manually here into your project location inside this .github folder, and inside that you will have to create this workflows folder, and inside it you would be creating this playwright.yaml file, which would be having this structure where you can provide this playwright tests as the workflows name, and in which case you want to run your job. So in case of push onto the main and master branch, and in case of pull request onto main and master branch, we want to start the execution. So that's why we have configured it here. And after that, we will have to configure the timeout and on which configuration you want to execute your test suite. And here you would be mentioning all the steps which should get performed. So here we have mentioned that first the code checkout will happen, then it will set up the Node.js, it will install all the dependencies here, and then it will install the browser, and after that it will start the execution. And once the execution is done, it will upload the artifacts. Here we have mentioned that it should always upload the artifact, and it should have name as playwright-report, and from which folder it need to pick this report. So this is the folder which is playwright-report. So the same folder you would be able to see here onto your local machine once you do the local execution. And we want to retain these artifacts for 30 days. So all these details we have mentioned inside the YAML file. And after this, whenever you will push your code onto the newly created repository or onto the already existing repository, so in that case, it will run that particular job where all your tests will get executed from your test suite. You can also raise the PR, and once you raise the PR, so in such cases also, the execution will happen. So once you raise the PR, so in that case, one execution will happen because you have created a pull request onto the main branch from your branch, right? And once your code is getting merged from another branch to the main branch, in that case also, one more execution will happen. You can also configure execution related configurations from this playwright.config.ts file, where you can mention that if you want to do the parallel execution, from which directory you want to pick the tests for the execution, how many retries you want to do in case of CI and local, how many workers you want to use for the execution. You can configure different reports also. Here you can mention that you want to execute in the headed or headless mode. If you want traces, videos or screenshots, that also you can configure here. And here you can configure on which browser you want to do the execution, right? So into the last execution, once we pushed our code onto this Wish Infinite branch. So there we have just done the execution only onto the Chromium branch. Let me switch onto this Wish Infinite -YT branch so that we would be able to see the latest codes, right? So here we have commented out this Firefox and WebKit. So in that case, only the execution happened onto the Chromium. So accordingly, you can make any changes, and those changes would be applicable onto the execution which is happening through this GitHub Actions, right? And inside the GitHub Actions, you would be able to see all the details. So this is the workflow name, which is Playwright Test. Here you would be able to see all the execution detail. So these are all commit message onto which branch the execution happened, why this execution happened. So this first and second execution happened because we pushed our code onto the main branch. Here this third execution happened because we raised the PR from this Wish Infinite -YT branch to the main branch. And here you would be able to see the user detail also. And this fourth execution is happening because you have merged your code from the Wish Infinite -YT branch to the main branch. Here you would be able to see the execution time which it took when this execution happened. And here you would also be able to see the user details, commit message, the status of the execution, total duration, how many artifacts which are there, why this execution happened, right? This is our YAML file name. And here you would also be able to see the annotations with this Playwright run summary because we have enabled the GitHub report. Here you would be able to see the artifacts, and you can click onto this artifact which will download your artifact. So in our case, we have configured the HTML report. So that's what we would be able to see. You can open this particular artifact, and here it will open the report. You can see all the execution related details from this HTML report. Here you can click onto the users where you would be able to see these details related to the job and the runtime. And if you want to have a look at your YAML file, so you can click onto this workflow file where you would be able to see all the details without going into this VS Code, right? So this is our YAML file which we have configured here. And here one more thing we saw, that we can install this GitHub Actions extension, and there also we would be able to see all the GitHub Actions related details. And that's it from my end. You can click onto this first card to go to the next video. You can click onto the second card to access the whole Playwright tutorial playlist, and stay tuned for my upcoming videos. If you have any comments, questions or doubts, you can let me know into the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Have a great day.